And welcome back to the Nose Plays Endless Space 2. You may be asking yourself, why are we at the loading screen for a new game and not playing one of the games that we have already begun? And the answer to that is simple, because I feel like starting over. So the other day, maybe it was like a week ago now, it's been a while, that's one of the reasons why I want to start over. I started the game with the Sophons late at night. It was not my best playthrough ever. I think we made some decisions early on that were pretty poor, and that led to what I concluded was going to be a very difficult start, and one that was going to be very focused on military. And we had just played a very military-focused game, and I didn't really feel like picking that one back up. But I do feel like picking the Sophons back up, and so I want to give them a second try, and we're going to try to do 30 turns tonight in sort of a speed playthrough, and see if I can have a little bit better game. I'm also trying a brand new strategy out that I think is one that needs to be considered by most factions that start with colony ships. And so we're going to discuss that one briefly. Let's go ahead and turn on the custom hero skins. I want to go through my game settings for you guys real quick. I'm going to run 6 competitors. That's basically half of the empires will be in the game, so we don't know exactly who we're going to run into, which is nice. I've got the difficulty bumped up to serious. I usually play on like hard or serious, sometimes impossible, rarely on endless. I just feel like the game cheats too much at these higher difficulty levels, and it's so obvious to me that it's not fun to play the game, even though it's more of a challenge in some sense. It's just, yeah, that's my view on that. Pirates on normal difficulty, I've moved them up to higher difficulties at times when I want more of a challenge, but the reality is they're just more annoying than anything. I don't know that it's really challenging as annoying. Normal pirate fleets seem to be the right mix of annoying but not so annoying that they completely mess up your game. And so we're going to leave them at normal. Just to take a quick peek at the settings on some of the other screens, I do bump minor civs up to hard just so they get fleets a little bit more quickly, and that, in my opinion, makes them more valuable to try to grab. And then the galaxy settings, pretty much default. We're going to go ahead and get started. If the cutscenes are still enabled, and I believe they could be, because I don't think I went in and disabled them, we're going to skip through them this time, because I do want to make this a fast speed game. So 1 to 2 hours, and we'll see how far we get. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet, check out the video that I recently made on ship design, and we'll be discussing ship design a little bit in this video, but I did a lengthy video on ship design. It's kind of like my second attempt at this. I've done a video series on combat and went over ship design in that series briefly, so you can check those videos out from an earlier version of the game. But this one was a more recent one and specifically focused on ship design, not so much the combat aspect of things. I need to do like a full combat series or video and really like break things down in detail and script it and everything, because a lot of times I just make these videos and I'm shooting from the cuff, and I have a lot of things in my mind and I don't always get them all out in the video, which is disappointing when I go back and watch them. So we've got our hero. We'll look at him here in a minute. Our 2 resources, Red Sang and benthic gems, are probably our population boosters.
Masters of Science.
And Masters of Science. There you have it. Let's take a look at our home system. Get some information here. This is looking promising, actually. This is pretty good for us, having 2 boreal worlds. The major advantage of boreal worlds is, number 1, they actually produce a reasonable amount of food compared to a lot of other cold worlds. which is nice because your growth doesn't stagnate so bad like it would on many other cold planets. But we have several benefits from cold worlds, including extra science and eventually extra industry, which we get from our replacement of the xeno-industrial infrastructure. And then 2 hot worlds, not as useful, especially the ones that we have. They're going to be difficult to colonize early. So we're basically limited to the population on these 2 planets for the time being. The second planet in our system, this is a really, really good start. We have average deposits of both strategics right from the get-go, and we also have 2 more curiosities that we can scout here in a second. We'll come back to this screen in a minute, and I'll talk about why I have a new strategy I want to test out that has been working pretty successfully off camera, and I think it might be a good idea for most people to give it a try at least. Because we do have both titanium and Hyperion, we're going to want to grab both of these technologies pretty quickly. I know for certain I want this one right away, because this building gives me an extra 30 industry once I get it built. 1 for cold, 1 for fertile, 1 for planet. And then it will give me another 30 once we colonize that second system, for a total of 60 industry very, very early in the game. And that is very, very important to us. So we're definitely going to prioritize that. Laws. We get 2 law slots from the very beginning of the game. I don't know that it's worth running either of these. I guess there's really not a lot of harm in running cram for exam. It's not going to push us below the approval threshold, so we're still content. So that's probably fine. I don't want to slow down our industry at this point in the game, and so we're definitely not going to be running Toys for Boys yet, but that will come into play later. The next thing we need to do is get our hero attached to this fleet. I am of the opinion that this is always the play you should make with your hero at the beginning of the game. There are very, very few circumstances where I think the industry that you will be providing, and it would have to be industry pretty much, would be enough to level up the hero as quickly if you put him on system. There are a few heroes who do benefit from things like anomalies, and so if your homeworld, for instance with the Vaulters, had a couple of anomalies, putting your hero down turn 1 would give you something like 20 industry, and that might be a reason to put a hero down turn 1 in your first system, but I think that even that's a stretch. We want to make sure that this ship and this guy's ship have a similar movement speed. Looking at this, my ship currently has a movement speed of 9. So, can I get up to 9 very easily? Well, we can get up to 9 with just 1 probe, so we'll do that. The upgrade cost is going to be 60, but I can remove some of these, and then I can also put one of these here. That will increase the upgrade cost of this slightly, but overall I think that this is probably worth it. We're not likely to get into combat right away. This is going to give us 2 ships recharging probes instead of just 1, which will mean we should get 2 probes every turn that we get them, or close to. Okay, we can go ahead and search these curiosities now that he's taken care of, so let's see what we got. I got geothermic activity. That's actually really good for us. We're already strong in science, so that's a very minor penalty, but the extra industry is good, and some influence, which actually we might be able to use. And then the second one is just a load of dust, which probably won't be able to use for a little while. That influence load that we just collected would allow us to potentially run one or both of these laws. Extra dust on original Empire population. This is basically 10 extra dust per turn. For a very small cost in influence right now. The cost is only 2 influence per turn for 10 dust. So I think that's probably worth doing. Most of the time I would be running this law, which just reduces the cost of industry on everything that we're building in our system, with a few exceptions. It does not provide a benefit to ships, and it also does not provide a benefit to certain wonders, I believe. It's only system improvements. There are a few things that don't qualify as system improvements. So for this first turn at least, we're going to go ahead and pass this law, since we can. And we have 2 star lanes. Now, one advantage that we get with this faction is we can see the ends of star lanes, which means we can kind of predict how long it's going to take our ships to get to the end of a star lane. This ship's going to take 2 turns to get to the end of that star lane. However, if we check the ship design, we see that this ship design actually has 3 support modules, and we can actually run 2 engines and 1 basic colonizer. We can apply that, and we can upgrade this. And now that extra movement will provide us the ability to get all the way over there. So we're going to go ahead and take our colony ship down this star lane. And we found nothing of any real use to us. Collapsing star. This is really cool. Cool looking, but not very useful in the short term. We have a little extra movement, so we'll go ahead and finish our move down this star lane and continue that direction. This fleet has used all of its movement points because launching probes utilizes a portion of your movement. If we get the influence bubble big enough, we can get extra experience on fleet and extra influence. Not terrible, but not great. It'll take us an awful long time for our influence bubble to get that large. With this faction, they don't tend to have the greatest influence growth. We don't have any more curiosities here, so we can go ahead and queue up the movement for the next turn. And last but not least, we're going to talk about my new strategy. So, we start with 1 colony ship right from the beginning of the game. One of the things that I've noticed that I have problems with is getting enough systems down fast enough, and sometimes the first colony ship I send down a lane, much like I did this time, and I end up at a dead-end lane or a lane that doesn't have a good site to settle on. And many times there's another direction that I did not choose to go where there's a perfectly good system, and I have 2 choices. I can backtrack several turns to get to that system and claim it, which takes time, or I can keep searching in the direction that I'm already going and hope that I hit something good or better than I've seen. And neither one of those choices are ideal. One way to help mitigate that is to create your second colony ship immediately. And so we can go ahead and get this second incubator out really, really quickly. However, in order to minimize the time in the production queue, what we're going to want to do is make this ship as cheap as possible. So if I put this on here and nothing else, this only costs 100 industry. Each of these engines adds 30 industry to the turn, but we can always buy those out with dust for no turns. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to redesign this ship to make it as cheap as possible. We're going to go ahead and throw it in the queue, and you can see it's already taken 2 turns off the build time. Now the reason that we're not running Dirty Hands Act is because we don't need Dirty Hands Act for an incubator. We'll go ahead and throw drone networks in next, and we're going to put the Xeno-Industrial Infrastructure replacement after that, or maybe even before that, but we'll see. But in 3 turns I'll have this out, and I'll be able to send it down this lane if there's a better site over here. If not, eventually I'm going to need it anyways, but having it handy and having it early is definitely an advantage. Also, the sooner you get your first couple systems down, the sooner you're going to be able to crank out things like a military fleet. You're going to get more science. It really is just a race to get as many systems down as possible in the early game. And I'm finding that it's probably more vital than I've ever thought it was before. The last few games that I've played off camera with other factions, just grabbing as many colony ships in the early game as possible, getting as many systems as quickly as possible, even if it sort of tanks your approval, seems to work out better than I think it should. And so we'll see if that's the case with this game. Alright, there's not a whole lot to do differently on this turn than we did on the last turn. One other thing that we could do differently is, since we can't build this yet, we could queue up something else and get started on it. And that has particular benefit for our faction, simply because of the way that this stuff works. Since other factions haven't learned these yet, we get a bonus to our science while we're researching them. So, what's the next thing I really want to get? I guess this thing can get done next. So we can get a turn of industry off of this. Or sorry, a turn of science off of this. We're putting out 44 a turn right now. And Red Sing and Benthic Gems were the 2 boosters, as I predicted. Alright, go ahead and end the turn. Okay, so this is a really rough start for us again. And this is another situation where we may have lucked out with building an early colony ship. Because by the time this ship gets down one of both of these lanes, we may want to send this guy over here. Otherwise, backtracking from here all the way back around this direction with that same colony ship takes forever, and it just puts you so far behind that having this second colony ship seems to make a lot of sense to me. We just discovered deciduous trees in the Orion system. Let's take a look at the planets. Large toxic, small steppes, and a medium arctic. No curiosities that we can uncover right now, but this might be a system that we grab early, and we would do that by researching steppe worlds. Now, next turn, we're going to complete... Let's go back here for a second. Next turn, we're going to complete this. Any overflow that we have is going to roll into whatever we have in the queue here. I think I actually want that overflow to roll into Coach Hub. And And the reason I want it to flow into this is because this is going to be worth 30 industry, which is very, very powerful once we get the industrial building. And we're actually going to build that first. We'll build it in front of this, but we'll get just a little bit shaved off of that. Now, I need to make sure that this gets moved back in front of the queue so that it actually gets completed the turn we need it. And we have a ship with an action. A huge gas temperate world. These are some really poor systems so far. Not what I'm used to seeing. I can mostly get down this lane. So I guess we'll head down it first. And see what we find. While we're out here, let's zoom out. We can see that the first player to 3 systems will get 15% additional influence per turn. That's okay. Not great for our faction. Definitely not as good as it is for the United Empire. Once we get this completed, we'll want to look at changing our law up. Alright, so we now have our incubator. We can pull him out, and we can edit this design again, put the engines back in there, apply that design. And upgrade it for 100 dust. Luckily we have it. And I'm not 100% sure I want to send him down this lane just yet. What I think I'm going to do is wait one more turn. This ship will make it to this point. If this is a good spot to settle, we'll send that ship that way. If it's not a good spot to settle, we'll consider sending it over here instead. We can now get the Mega Indie Consultancy in 9 turns. This is going to be worth 30 industry. This is going to be worth another 30 industry. This is going to be worth 18 industry. Everything's going to be fine. Just fine. And we can actually abolish that law and put the Dirty Hands Act in place now. And we can run both of these laws for the low, low price of about 4.8 influence per turn. We're still positive, but just barely. But I think we're going to continue to run both laws in the short term. Okay. The next thing we need to do is figure out what science we want to work on. So right now, we're working on plasma metallurgy. We've got a long time before this becomes relevant. But there are a few other things that do become relevant earlier. First of all, Steps World becomes relevant if we decide we wanted to settle that first system. We could get on to that pretty quickly. This could become relevant. Xenosynergy allows us to talk to minor factions if we happen to find one. Military tech's not relevant just yet. But galactic commodities actually can be relevant. We don't have any income of commodities just yet, but the ability to buy them actually has value, and once we do start collecting things, the ability to sell them can keep our economy solvent. Anything else? This is kind of relevant. There are higher level curiosities out there, and warp drive travel is pretty nice. Be the first to successfully search 10 curiosities for a cache of Eaten incense, it looks like, which is the influence. Buffing luxury. So, of all of the things that we could be researching right now, which ones are most relevant? I think probably galactic commodities. It's going to take quite a few turns before we get to it. Alright, we did find a good system over here. 5 planets, lots of curiosities. It is the end of a star lane. Let's see what we're looking at. Tiny atoll planets are okay. Medium toxic planets are bad. Snow planets are okay for us. Arctic planets are okay for us. Ice planets are okay for us. Lots of science planets. But with one really easy to colonize planet to get started with. So let's go ahead and grab both of these for now. And then I have one more. Knob rings. Cool. And there are 2 more curiosities here, so we'll wait it out for a few turns. But we definitely know where we're sending this guy now. So he is going this direction. We'll be there shortly. Our hero has leveled up. And this hero is generally best used as a fleet commander because he has some very powerful fleet abilities. He's got weapon damage. He's got movement and vision, which I find more valuable than a lot of the defensive traits. He's got hull plating and fleet health on a single ability. Energy weapon damage buff. More movement. More probe stock. Shield capacity. Just a very good military hero. He also starts with 10% health on fleet. So I think we're going to use him in that capacity. This ability only applies to the ships in your fleet. It doesn't apply to your hero, unfortunately. The vision does, but the rest of it does not. I think we'll just go with the weapon damage for now. And then once we cycle him back through here, on his way this direction, we'll probably retrofit his ship to be more viable as a military commander. We're also going to need some military ships, and those will come a little bit later in the game. Okay, we found another reasonable system here. In Cancer, let's see what we're dealing with. Medium boreal's okay. Industry's low, which is bad, but the food is okay, so we'll get good growth. Tiny snow with a bunch of curiosities. And ice with a single curiosity. And more. So lots of cold worlds. Again, probably not great for most players, but good enough for us. So I think we're going to go ahead and drop our first colony here. And we're not going to be able to pay these costs right now, but we might be able to accelerate this a little bit. We'll see. It's going to take a while for that system to get up and running. Alright. Anything else that we want to do this turn? Don't really need to check our laws just yet. We're still quite a few turns away from that. We have a lot of curiosities over here, and we still need to see what this planet has. I might try and shoot a probe over there before we head out that direction. But for now, we got more curiosities here, so we'll stay here. Okay, we have some choices here as part of our faction quest. We can choose one of 3 options. Each one will influence our government in some way. We haven't seen any minor civilizations yet. Explore fleets outside of our current constellation would not be incredibly difficult. This is a really good engine, actually. It's cheap, it provides extra vision, and extra movement, and extra health. That's not terrible. Or we could militarize, win 3 battles. Infer is watching. Infer is the AI that we've created, the singularity machine. I think we're going to go with the science, because I want to play a more internal victory this time, if we can. Or at least play towards one. We got 1 probe, so we can get one of these 2. This is a life form, and this is an atmospheric. We'll save the atmospheric for a little bit later. Meteor strikes. That's not great. But it is on the worst planet, so we won't have to deal with that for quite some time. Let's get our ships moving. And we can put his fleet to sleep for a turn. Is there anything else that I want to do right this second? Not particularly. So just keep rolling. Alright. I can grab this now. Or... yeah, I don't think it has the range to uncover that, unfortunately. We're just not quite close enough. Okay, so we'll go ahead and grab this now. Permanent monsoon. A lot of negative anomalies. Or at least partially negative anomalies. This provides extra food, but it also reduces industry and approval on a planet that already has bad industry and approval. That is not good. In the slightest. We are just going to go ahead and get this started. This is going to have a real negative impact on our food output in our home system. And you would think that maybe that would be bad enough that you wouldn't want to do it. But we're experimenting tonight, so... that being said, we need to get all the way over here as quickly as possible, and I want to stop in Kochev and use a little bit of our dust and potentially the Galactic Commodities Exchange to help retrofit these ships for the future. Seeing as we are not putting our hero back in our capital. Now remember, the number of turns that it takes these things to get done is not this. This is based solely on the plus 11 food per turn for system growth. We've got to get up to 300 food in order to get our first population pip. But it will also include these food ships, which each carry 21 food. So each one of these ships that gets there knocks 2 turns off, roughly. And the same thing will be true here. One thing I do need to see is we're going to lose a population in 5 turns, which kind of sucks, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Okay. We now have this done. So let's go to the marketplace. Let's look at our luxuries. So I actually have income of this, which means we could use it as a tier 1 strategic, tier 1 system development. There's already some Hyperium and Titanium on the marketplace. If we really needed to buy some, we could. We could also sell the caches that we've collected so far. And we do actually have mining of this because we have a colony on one of those 2 planets. I believe it was the Cancer system. No? Must have been the other one then. Yes, so we're actually mining these because of the colony. We don't need to worry about it this turn, but next turn we may need to sell some stuff in order to retrofit our ships. Our hero has made another level. We're going to go ahead and give him the 2nd point in weapon damage. Another Empire has managed to search 10 curiosities already. Still can't reach that with a probe. Because it's going to take us enough turns to get here or here, that will regenerate these probes anyways. We should go ahead and launch some probes out just to see if there's anything out there that we're missing. So I think I'm going to launch one that way and maybe just out this way. Let's launch 3 of our probes. We'll save 1. And then we need to edit this ship. So we have a couple of things we could add. The guns would be good. The better defense is going to be shields because long-range weapons are going to be more dangerous against us than anything else. The extra movement from this engine is irrelevant right now. We could also grab that. This is going to give us defense against both. One of the reasons I would consider staggering your defenses is that stacking them is more effective, but not in the same capacity. So I get 41% absorption of damage from most weapons, but I only have 550 hit points of shields. If I put a second shield on there, this doesn't go up to 81%. It goes up to 58%. And 58% is a very small amount of increase from 41. So the rate of absorption is slightly better. The real advantage is we get more shields to absorb, but I think I'd rather have the 23% hull plating as opposed to a few more percent over there. And then we have one extra spot here we could throw something. I could throw a repair module in there. I could throw another probe in there. I guess we'll just throw the repair module for now. This is going to cost us a little bit of dust. We need to confirm that. So in order to get that to happen, we're going to have to sell something. I have income of this. I don't have income of this, but we will soon. So I could sell like 10 of this pretty safely. And then that's going to allow me to upgrade his ship. Now the question is, do I really want to do 2 sets of guns when I could do some other things? So this makes my long range damage 13. This drops it. Let's use beam weapons just to increase our long range damage a little bit. One of each of those, and then put the repair module in here. 179, 5. And then our detector ship needs to be edited. We have 2 weapon slots here. We'll do something similar with him. And then we'll just leave that design like that. And upgrade that ship for another 60. And now we're all set to continue to here. At this location, we'll send a probe down this lane, and then we'll finish our journey to the Cancer system to get all that XP. Maybe we send this out. Yeah, let's send that out that way. Might as well use up all of our probes since it's going to take us several turns to get over here. Alright, our main system, 3 turns away from the mega indie consultancy. That's going to speed things up significantly. We are 1 turn away from plasma metallurgy, but we're 7 turns away, and actually less than that, from really needing it. We can't build the building right away anyways, there's too many things in the queue. The real need would be to start gathering Hyperium, but until we're on this world, we're not gathering Hyperium anyways, so getting this done early is not helpful. So let's move on to another technology that might be helpful. This is going to help our faction quest, and also give us more curiosities to search. So let's start working on that. That seems like it's more relevant in the near future. Alright, what else do we want to do? Our laws are fine. I don't think there's anything else we need to consider yet. Just keep hitting the intern button then. Keep moving our ships. Baryonic shielding in 2 turns. So the one thing that I want to point out right this second is at turn 11, we are no further behind yet for getting 2 systems down. We didn't give up much of anything. A couple of turns of industry at the very beginning of the game, yes. But in terms of everything else, we're still basically where we would be if we had grabbed just one of these 2 systems. I think having both of these started at the same time is going to pay off. Okay, that's actually not 100% terrible for us. if the pirates were going to be on a system around here, I would have preferred it to be this one, because it's one of the crappiest systems and it's not really going to affect us all that much. There are already 300 pirates here. We're not equipped to really deal with that. They are going to have a fleet.
Speak.
And it's going to be a prowler with energy weapons, but no shields and no armor. So we could stay here for a turn. It'll spawn next turn, and then we could blow it up and gain a little XP and prevent it from roaming around and causing problems for our food ships. So I think what we're going to do is actually hang out here for a second. It's going to slow down our curiosity searching, but that's fine. Oh yes. And we now have the ability to run a hack, which we should do, as well as run a defense, which we should also do. Let's see if they attack us. They did. This ship's ideal range is medium range. We want to try to avoid medium range. I can guarantee long range and extra defense to our shields by running this, so that's what we're going to do. And we'll go ahead and watch this one because I like to watch the battles. They're cool looking. I will speed up the battle slightly. Slightly more than long range. Which should give us an advantage and a lead going into the game. There we go. So we took a little bit of damage to one of our ships, but we won that. We got some experience, which is good. We can take a look at the advanced numbers here, and we can see that we were at long range for a little while. We outdamaged them quite significantly at long range, and at medium range, we decimated them. This has a lot more to do with the fact that we have stronger, or not stronger weapons, but we have more guns than they were equipped with. How much damage did our shields? Damage received from their laser weapons. Evaded shots. If I turn this off. Use shields to reduce that. I thought there was somewhere that showed how much damage our shields absorbed, but I'm not seeing that statistic at the moment. So, alright, population is decreasing. So now we're about to actually lose a population pip. This is pretty bad for us, because that is going to reduce several things. Number one, we're going to get a little bit less industry per turn, which really sucks. Let's see, how close are we to getting one of these done? 17 turns here, and 15 turns here. So we're still quite a ways from getting one of these two completely colonized. So this is the point at which we probably wouldn't have lost population pip just yet if we were only running one of these, but because we're running food ships to both, it's putting such a strain on our food supply that we are about to lose population. Fortunately or unfortunately, baryonic shielding may not be the most advantageous thing to pick up right now. It may be a food building. Actually, what I definitely want to put in the queue is plasma metallurgy, because next turn we will have the Hyperion planet colonized. And then I'm going to start working on this food building, because I think we're going to have to get a food building down really quickly in order to recover from the food loss here. It's going to be 11 turns before they spawn another ship. So we're going to go ahead and move. And if we take a look,
Speak.
we can see that the next ship they're going to spawn is basically a copy of the first one. Now this could potentially be added to by other players giving them support. And if that happens, the ship will be stronger and have better weapons. Alright. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to send a probe down this lane, because we're going to be here for a while. And we'll get that uncovered so we know what the next stop is. We want to uncover both of these because we're going to start collecting these now. So we'll be collecting titanium and Eden incense. Snow World would probably be the next one to look at. Okay, another Hyperion load we could sell off if we needed to. And then I've got an atmospheric and a signal. We'll probably just wait here for a few turns to get that. Technology screen. This is probably okay as is, so we'll leave that for now. Alright, now that we've got some real industry, we're going to be able to crank out things a lot more quickly here. And I want to make sure that most of my population is on the planet that's getting the most benefit. So we get an extra couple points of industry over here for no obvious reason. Huh. I'm curious why that's... These are both... Oh, this is... No, there's no negative. I'm really confused why this and this have different numbers. Unless there's a hidden curiosity that's affecting these numbers that I just haven't uncovered yet, which is possible, I suppose. Well, let's see. We're at 91 here. Yeah, it's lower over here for sure. So we'll just stay over here for now. We're only at -9 food, so we can probably remedy that with this building, but if not, the other food building will be very beneficial. This is also going to be worth 40 science, and probably is the next thing we should get after drone networks. If I could time travel, what year would I go to? Interesting question, Ghostbusters, man. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. Several years come to mind. Maybe back to the year 2000. That was an interesting time in my life. Alright, so we failed a couple of those. Lots of new things uncovered. Eden incense. Yep. Got it. Okay. Go back and fight young me. Yeah, the younger version of ourselves are hardly as likable as they probably should be, right? Alright, we're halfway to turn 30. That's where my goal was. And we're about 1 hour into this, so it looks like this is going to be a 2-hour video. Pirates can now hack. That's annoying. Let's go ahead and form a blockade here. Just in case anybody comes down this lane, we can stop them for a turn and see who they are. And say hello with our guns and lasers. Well, if you can be anyone, being Batman is always the right choice. We have an election coming up. And grabbing an atmospheric curiosity now will ensure that we get some type of reward for this quest. Extra nodes are revealed. I don't see any. Okay, so now one thing that I noticed when we were here a second ago is that these curiosities are both just one level above where we're at right now. So coming back here and picking this up right now actually is beneficial to us. So we did most of the research earlier, but now we're actually going to put it to the front of the queue because this is the turn where it matters. Clear all those. Get another point into vision and fleet movement. Alright. Are we getting really close to this yet? We are 10 turns away. And again, we said each one of these is -2 turns. This ship is... I'm not sure how many turns away from getting there, but we figure both of these get there, so that's 2, 4. So we're about 6 turns away before that one is completely colonized, and then this one's at 9 with a similar number of turns. So we'll get both of these before turn 30. No worries, man. Thanks for stopping in and saying hi. Check out the video when it goes online later tonight or tomorrow, and you can watch the full episode, so to speak. Have a good night. Alright, let's go ahead and put him back into guard mode. Let's get through a couple more turns here. That's been completed. Got one of our probes back, so we can get one of these. Unfortunately, neither of them are atmospheric, so we'll just grab the ruin first. All remaining curiosities have been revealed. Okay. Basic positron beams. Those are actually pretty decent, especially at this point in the game. Beam weapons. Pretty reasonable. We should definitely try to pick them up. And it looks like we did uncover this with one of those other curiosities. It revealed the nodes. I forgot. Lots of cold worlds over here. Also, quite a few curiosities on this system as well. Our hero doesn't really have anything else that he can do right now, so we might as well head down this lane and pick this up. Get as many of those done as we can. There's one more lane here that we haven't fully explored, and it could have additional legs off of it, and very likely does. But yeah, this is pretty reasonable. 25 damage per second, 100% accuracy at all ranges, and a 5% crit chance is pretty solid compared to our standard one. If we take a look, just out of curiosity, our standard, we're at 11, so it's more than double the damage. It's pretty good. Keep in mind, we are at tier 0 weapons right now. Right, we should have a pretty major power spike once these both go down. Alright, we've received a hostile trace. So they're trying to trace our hack on their system. They won't be able to. Planetary landscaping in 2 turns will be completed. Public-private partnerships is going to be completed in 1 turn. I think we should probably throw cerebral reality in the queue. Our food is positive, so even just that one building has completely fixed the food problems that we were having, although we did lose 1 population pip to get this resolved. What will likely happen is each time we get to 3, it'll go back to negative, and we'll lose food for a number of turns until we lose it, then we'll gain it. There's this equilibrium state where you reach with most food demands, and that would continue happening indefinitely, but it will stop as soon as we get these colonized. So we're a little bit behind population-wise here. The thing to keep in mind is that the food that's leaving your system doesn't just disappear. As long as it eventually makes it to this other system, the food gets deposited there even after it becomes a colony. And so basically it helps you grow your second point of population a little bit faster if you have a lot of extra food ships en route, even after this becomes a colony. So you don't really lose the food, it just kind of sort of gets in limbo while you're growing. You do, however, lose the industry and the influence and all of those other things that your population pip would be collecting for you. Alright, we want to get atmospherics if possible. There's a 1 atmospheric here. Ooh, that's a really good one. I didn't realize that it was a mixed one. -2 science. That seems odd. Again, not that big a deal on an ice world with the Sophon faction. -2 science per pip is not really a factor at all. We could pick up ruins or a life form. Let's grab the life form. Just in case it's population, which it is. This is a military pop, which is not ideal for us, but a population pip is still a population pip. We might be able to utilize them. And let's go ahead and analyze this planet for a free technology. It'll take a little bit of science per turn, but nothing too bad. And let's talk about what do we need next. So this is going to be done in one turn. Planetary landscaping is going to be done in one turn. This is going to allow us to get food buildings, which I think are really important early in the game. If we can get food buildings started by turn 20, that's not bad. That means we have most of our basic industry buildings done, which we do. Alright, anything else? This will be up in 5 turns. Our hack should be done this turn. We'll come back and look at the science in a minute. New tier. Empty construction. Investigate 10 curiosities. Discover 4 systems outside of your constellation. This is actually a pretty decent engine. The problem is we're going to get a really good engine from our quest. But this is just, I've never figured out how or when or why this would be better than just having another probe module. I just don't see how this is ever better than having a second probe module. Let's go ahead and do this one. The ram scoots do have one important benefit, and that is that 25% stacks, which means you can get ships that are very, very fast, very, very quick. Basic positron torpedoes, so another tier 1.5/2 weapon that we could outfit our ships with in the very, very near future. Alright, what happened to our hack? Our hack is going to be completed in 2 turns. Kochab to Reamer is finishing in 2 turns. This is... I'm not sure if we're going to get traced back or not. That's curious. Alright, we'll need to pick a new research now. One more tech in this tree will give us our second point here, which will unlock basic system development, which we definitely need. So what do we want to take? I'm not sure that that's the right choice. This one's actually a little bit more valuable to me. The ability to buy things out with dust is useful. We have a law that produces a fair amount of dust when we run it, especially as our population grows. And then this building can be pretty powerful as well at just solving some of your early dust problems. It also counts as a unique building for certain quests. If we wanted to get more planets, we need to get a lava and a desert. The desert world definitely gives us more curiosities to uncover. We also know that we need to start collecting things like snow, ice, and Arctic. And there is a nearby steppes world that we could colonize. So all of those are possible choices. Military ships are definitely a possible choice. Food is always good. I'm almost considering food over everything right now. Because cold planets have such crappy food, to get growth on them, you really need to prioritize food buildings early. And nobody else has really researched this yet, so we're going to get research on it faster than we normally would. So let's go ahead and get that. This is only going to take 2 turns, which is fine. I could throw down intensive cultivation. If we do throw that down, we want to make sure that this system is mostly filled with Sophons, and we may even want to move the Pilgrim off of it once we get to the Tier 2 system development. Or we could build this, which provides a very, very small amount of industry right now, but later on it'll be worth more because of this system. Miners Union is actually pretty good here as well. Let's go with this for now. I can always change my mind on a later turn. This should be very close to being settled. 4 turns. This food ship will be there in a few turns. Might make it next turn, actually, considering the distance between them. I don't know. Let's take a look, actually. Well, I guess I can't now. Turn 20. Okay. What laws are going to help us out the most? Probably the Ecologist Party. The Industrialist Party is not going to have any laws that I really want to run right now. The Scientist Party will continue to have laws that are important for us to run. The Religious Party, we could continue to run the law that gives us extra dust, but until our population gets bigger, this is not super valuable. I think we'll just throw our support behind the Scientists and see what happens. Well, there you go. Scientist Party it is. So you can actually get in a situation where you only have a single party, even if you have multiple parties available to you, much like we just did. That does mean that we lost our dust law, which has put us in a very, very tight spot financially in the short term. We could run Super Tax Act if we really needed to, but we don't. The other thing we could do is run Toys for Boys. Toys for Boys would definitely improve some of our problems, but It also slows down the rate at which we get things built. And I'm not sure that I'm down for that. Until this goes negative, I think we're just going to leave that lost slot empty. I suppose the one thing we could do in the short term is just... well, that's cool. So this actually shows how many turns we have left. Did we lose another population pit? No, not yet. Yeah, we should definitely run that other law then. So creme for exam is not going to have a negative impact on us. Alright, this is definitely a bit of a rough start. Successfully hack these guys. So there's a couple of things that I like to do with pirate systems. One of the things that you can do with the pirate system is throw a backdoor on them. It does make it faster to hack to that node later. We could sabotage supplies, which adds 4 turns to the pirate fleet. The pirate fleet's going to arrive in 2 turns. We could make that 6. That would give us enough time to potentially retrofit these guys' ships. Because now that this will be a system next turn. Now that these are systems, we'll need to get them up and running pretty quickly here. So, because we're at negative dust right now, I may actually... Let's see if Toys for Boys fixes our... So... we get up to loyal, which is nice, but it's still not enough to fix our dust issues. Let's go ahead and get Cerebral Reality done first. I don't normally prioritize this, but getting the dust is kind of important to us at this point. I need to stay solvent in order to get some other things done. Coming back to this, we could just steal some stuff from them. But I think I do want to sabotage their supplies and delay their fleet from showing up so we can be ready for it to destroy it right away. Let's go ahead and do that for now. And then run a second hack. Can I run it just... Alright, we'll just do it this way for now. Alright, I'll get botanical scanning next turn, which will give me a food building that I can build here. I think what we want to do is start on another incubator. And then botanical scanning can get done but we do need to get the steps world. And it's going to take 2 turns, I believe. Things will change slightly, but we're not going to be able to build that for 2 turns anyways while we're building this. So, alright, our fleet has arrived. We definitely want to sell some things. This could be... This might have to be what we build our tier 1 luxury out of. It's the only one we really have any quantity of. But for now, because I have 4 of this per turn, we can go ahead and sell like 30 of this pretty easily. And that fixes most of our dust problems. And then we can edit these ships. So, we can go something like this. I don't really like that. I like having guns just in case anybody's using missiles. It's just a very good defense against missile weapons. We'll do that, and then on our hero ship, we'll want to put fleet is not opening one of the player's colonized star systems. Are we not there yet? We're like just barely not there, huh? Oh. This hasn't actually rolled over to a colony yet. Next turn we can do that. We can't do it this turn. I gotcha. We got 4 probes. We're not going to need to scan anything in terms of curiosities for a little while. So let's just go ahead and get some probes launched out here and uncover some of the dark of space. And he can just stay here for a turn. Alright, this feels pretty good so far. Keep Cancer clear for 10 turns. That might happen. We've got a growth. We're now in control of the constellation, which helps this out a little bit. Do I really still need to run Toys for Boys? I guess I do for a little while. And this system can also start with Cerebral Reality. Followed by drone networks, maybe. Gotta get the food and the industry started here as soon as possible. Snow World. If we colonize this Snow World, we'll be able to get deciduous trees a little bit faster, which is almost certainly going to be our tier 1 development. Snow worlds are this technology, so we'll throw that in the queue. And then of all of the tier 2s over here that we need to grab, this one's probably the most valuable, so I'm going to throw it in the queue as well. I think we can delay our system development for a little while. But so far, I feel like even with kind of a not great start in terms of the quality of systems that we've encountered to this point. We're still in a reasonable situation. We can also throw encryption on this system, and we can throw encryption on this system. Not that we really need to, but it doesn't hurt. We have the bandwidth. We might as well. Now the question is, which of these things need to be done most quickly? This is going to be finished in one turn. It'll take us more than one turn to get over here. So that's probably what we want to do. This is the system we're going to grab to get the deciduous trees. And that was a steps world, right? Yep, and there's another curiosity here that might be good. In fact, a couple of curiosities here. Which means that the curiosity tech here is probably a little bit of a priority, but we got other things that need to happen first. Alright, so we got a Hiroshima on Cancer. And we were the leaders because we got those atmospheric curiosities. So always remember, when you get past about turn 5 or 6, if you have an option to delay grabbing atmospheric curiosities, you should probably delay it just a few turns, just in case this quest pops. And that way you can get in on that reward. You only need about 2. 2 or 3 will guarantee you first place in most situations. Alright, which one's Cancer? Cancer's up here. So we got an extra point of population up here that likes sterile worlds. We definitely have some sterile worlds that we can move Hiroshima to at some point, and probably should. This is a really good building that needs to get built soon. And I would really like to move my Pilgrim off of this system, but I can't do that until we get the system development finished. We can, however, get this ship out and start heading over here. We're one turn away from being able to colonize, so the timing on this is quite perfect. So we'll leave that as is. Let's just double check that we have the right one in the queue here. This is, yeah, colonize step. And this is a step world, right? Not a savanna. Okay, good. I got everything down for once. No minor factions yet. Right. We'll get that colonized. Okay, this is going to take a while because I'm not sure why. Why is this going to take 34 turns to colonize? There's 9 food on this planet. I'm not sure where this 9 is coming from. There's only 4 food on this planet. So we have the dust to go ahead and buy this out and cut this in half. This will significantly reduce the number of turns. Anytime this is over 20, if you have the dust, it's generally worth paying. If it's less than 20 or really close to 20, then you're not getting quite as much of a benefit from it. But we should get the full benefit from that. Okay, we have new food buildings we can build. And we have new probes and things that we can put on our ships, which we should do. We also have new engines we could put on our ships, which I think we should also do. So let's go ahead and back to the detector design phase. And no, we don't have the new engines just yet, just the new probes. We're making more Hyperium than anything else, so I'm going to go ahead and throw Hyperium probe here. And our hero ship, these guys have a probe recharge time that is not as good. So this is every 2 turns, this is every 1 turn. This makes a very good probe for hero class ships because of the lower turn time. So we'll get 1 probe every single turn that we spend one. That design. And then upgrade this ship. Pretty easy upgrade. Now we have better weapons. This pirate will be up in 3 turns. So we should fly, say, over here first. Launch a probe. Ooh, interesting. And we found our first other faction, which is the Academy. We'll want to get rid of him soon. I prefer to just get rid of the Academy as opposed to befriend him. But and then we've got miners unions working, but I think I would rather get the food. So this is going to be +4 food per population pip, which is like 12. This is going to be +10 food, +10%. If I go... excuse me, here we can see that total food output on this system is pretty significant. I'm not sure which of those 2 buildings is better. I think they're probably about the same. But the reality is they both need to get built. And they're probably more important than the miners union. So we'll put that one down first, and then we'll get this one next. Percent bonuses are worth more after you have more flat bonuses. So let's go that route for now. Still working on... This is largely going to help put our dust back to neutral once we get these 2 buildings completed. Those food numbers were misleading because we're currently sending food ships out. That's why our food seems lower than it probably should be. New objective, capture a new faction. Choke Hub has been compromised. That kind of sucks. There's not much I can do about it. The Academy has been discovered by an unknown empire. Okay, we can send 1 probe down this lane. I can't quite reach those, but we're not really trying to anyways. We want to get over here and be ready for those pirates the moment that they pop up.
What can I do for you?
And just to verify, yeah, it's still just the same energy weapons as last time. So we should have no problem destroying them. Okay, let's check out our science real quick. this snow world is useful, but let's take a look at who really has snow worlds. So there's no snow world there. There's definitely a snow world here, but the usefulness of colonizing this is minimal. There are no benefits in luxuries or strategics that we'll be collecting, and the population on this has a long way to go before we start to cap out and have approval problems. So not an issue here. And then here, I think we did have a snow world with deciduous trees that I wanted to try to start collecting from, but I don't think that that is a number one priority, especially for this site. We've got a lot of other things that need to be built before we worry about that. So I can move this out of the front of the queue and maybe get multi-threaded management done, get our system development ready before turn 30 so that everybody's producing good dust. So this is exactly one turn away from pirates. We'll go ahead and hole up here for a second. And I've got a bunch of probes. We're going to be here for a turn. We might as well consider throwing some of these around. There are some curiosities down here we could scout, so we want to head that way maybe next. But let's just kind of throw 1, 2, 3, and then maybe just one out that way. Just to make sure there's nothing floating out here that we
The Academy
useful.
has a request for you.
They would like dust.
I am listening.
Is there anything here that would be of great use to us? I think I really like the Vault Master. The ability to choose laws from any party that's not necessarily in power has a seriously interesting advantage for some factions. Master of Dust seems very inconsequential. Librarian seems okay, but I don't know what information is of much use. I haven't really seen the Librarian used yet. The Spear of Asander could definitely be useful. Let's put in 100 and see what happens.
This is as it.
Be the first to control at least 4 star systems in the same constellation. We were close to being able to grab that. We were only maybe 8 turns away when you consider food deliveries. This should be another easy fight. Again, they're going to prefer medium range to any range that we could dictate. So here's the thinking behind wanting to go long range against these guys. These guys are going to do their best damage at medium range. We're going to do better damage than them at both long and at short range. But if I choose a short range tactic, they have the ability to force me to fight the first round of combat at medium range, at which point the second round we would fight at short range and then short range again. However, if I choose a long range tactic, I'm better at long range than they are, and I can force them to start at long range, because if they choose medium range, which they should because they're best at medium range, um, long range will always happen first. So the priority always goes to the longest range, and then it reduces by one range category until you are at the optimal range of the shortest. That means if one person picks long and one person picks short, you start at long, you go to medium, and then you go to short. If somebody chooses medium and somebody chooses short, you start at medium, you go to short, and you stay at short. And so the system is interesting in that the only thing that you can predictably do is you can always force people to start an engagement at long range. That is the one constant you can provide, no matter what. You can force them to start at long range. Now, they may not stay at long range, which is why long range weaponry, I believe, is the best choice for early game at least. There are ways around it, and you can use things like shields or special shields, special defense setups to get through long range tactics. But generally speaking, long range weapons that are not torpedoes, because torpedoes are bad long range weapons against bullets. They're very good against this ship. They would decimate this ship very quickly, but so will the things that I have equipped. There's no need to watch this. It'll be a replay of last time. They're going to die even faster because our beam weapons are twice as good as they were last time. Okay, more XP for us. Unfortunately, this system is growing and getting more powerful, which makes it harder to get rid of. At some point, we're going to have to deal with that. We have a couple of things that we can do with this fleet right now. We can send him down here to discover what's going on here. We could also cross star lanes and finish our quest, which I think might be worthwhile. So let's plan on maybe doing that. We have to sit on two different systems in a separate constellation, and this is almost certainly not part of our constellation. Yeah, it's part of the Hydrus constellation. So we'll finish our quest. I really want more science, political ideology. I'm not too keen on losing approval, because that's going to drop us a whole tier. But losing industry is really bad in the early game. "30 turns of religious political ideology would help out our pilgrims to a certain extent. I think we're just going to take the approval hit. I don't want minus 15 industry. Well, before I say that, what does that look like? Minus 15 industry on our two new colonies basically cripples them entirely. Minus 15 industry here is more than 15% reduction in our industry. Yeah. I think we're going to go ahead and take this. It's less impactful. Hostile trace detected. This is just our trace to Rimor again. Alright, we got a free Technology, off-world agribusiness. This is one that we would have probably picked up at some point. It is this one over here, the ability to negotiate with minor civilizations, as well as the infinite supermarket, which is a very reasonable approval building. Alright, our dust situation is fixed for the time being. Sophon populations are growing, as is the academy. This system is down to 11 turns now. And I think you can see where we're at the start of this. We're 30 turns in now. For a slow start, I think we've done just fine.
Speak quickly.
So these guys are putting in something like a lot more than us. We put in 100 dust, and they are 4 times what we are. So that means we're going to have to pour a lot more dust in here to likely get anything. We can switch these around. I'd like to see what the library does. I'm not really concerned about the spear, and the Master of Dust is less valuable to me than maybe even the spear. The Vault Keeper is interesting, so we'll keep it in second place. We'll just roll with that for now. Alright, we can now officially buy things out. And we also have the ability and the resources, I believe, to really get our Tier 1 system developments rolling. This is the only thing that we can apply to it, so we're going to go ahead and apply it. And we're going to go ahead and put it down here first. Also, because we can buy things out now, I could start buying things like this ultra greenhouse. I think we're just going to finish it normally. This is a good time for this to happen because we just took on that quest that's giving us -10 approval. This will basically recoup that and then some. It will also enhance our dust, but unfortunately the pacifist party is going to get a bunch of political support, and I'm not very fond of the pacifist party. We've also achieved this objective: capture, assimilate, or attract a new population type into your empire. Not quite sure how that happened. Might have been from this, yeah. This guy probably finally arrived from that really long star lane where we found him. So we have militarist and religious. That's going to affect these buckets in this system slightly more than we will get in other systems. I would love to get these guys off of this system, and maybe we move them over to Orion as soon as Orion's completed here. Okay. Well, I think this is a good place to stop for this particular video. So I'm going to go ahead and save this game, and we will be picking this one up again, most definitely. I'll be doing another 10 to 20 turns in about an hour or so, but not today. We'll do it sometime tomorrow. So this video will go up tonight, and you can watch part 2 tomorrow as I complete it. Not sure that there's too much else to say. I'm still kind of torn on this strategy. I think grabbing systems with a early colony ship as your first build, so that you have 2 colony ships to help scout systems and grab things before pirates and other things take them, is probably the best way to go. But I'm going to keep experimenting, and we'll see how this game actually turns out a few more turns into the game. I think our short-term goals are obviously to continue working on our quest with our hero, and then transitioning our home system from this early industry phase into one where we're actually building ships and using those military ships to take out the pirates that are in our region, as well as maybe challenge the Academy for territory. What we really need to do, though, is finish uncovering the rest of this constellation and see who we're competing with for space, because at the moment I don't really know. I do, however, see a bubble here, which means that somebody's over here, and that could be another player, although it looks like it may just be another pirate. So those will be tasks for the next game. Until then, this has been The Nose Plays, and you guys have a great day.